So you went to Cologne and you started working, primarily the Ford Escort RS Cosworth,
Yeah.
which of course had that large double rear spoiler, very distinctive features.
Mhm.
But when you go to BMW a few years later, where you ended up spending more than a decade, there's this little car that needs to be reinvented and reimagined,
Mhm.
and you are the one who is among a group tasked with coming up with what the Mini Cooper would look like, the new Mini Cooper.
Yes. Yeah.
Take me through
Yeah.
that process. I mean,
Well,
it's an icon,
yeah.
it
In the States, I mean, they did sell in the States, so the people who knew about it knew about it. But outside the States, you have to think in Europe, this was probably uh, along with the Beetle, perhaps the most common car you'd see in Europe for many, many years. Everybody, especially in England, obviously, everybody had one. It was, part of the family. People used to name the cars as if it was a family member, and it was also classless. So basically, anybody and everybody owned the Mini, even if it was, it was like the fourth car in the family, or it could have been the first car in the family. It didn't matter. It was just everybody had a Mini, and that was pretty much the way it was for almost 40 years from when it first came out, which was in '59, all the way up until the '90s. That car never really changed. And in that sense, I think that's part of the reason why it became so iconic in Europe. It was just, everybody knew what a Mini was. And the fact that it hadn't changed was probably its downfall also, because in '99, it was scheduled to actually be stopped because it was unsafe to drive, as they say. And BMW, having bought Mini as well as some of the other brands that belong to the Rover Group, thought in the mid '90s, what do we do? Let this car run out and that's it, or do we use it as our small car brand, along with Rolls-Royce being the very top of our group? We'll have if we incorporate Mini, we'll have a luxury brand. In Rolls-Royce, we'll have BMW as our volume, and we'll have Mini as our small car brand. That seemed to make a lot of sense, but of course the danger there was if Mini failed worldwide, it wouldn't really do good for BMW's image, I guess, because taking over a British icon and reinterpreting it as a German company is it's
it's
playing with
fraught with
fire. Yeah,
peril.
fraught with peril. And so they had one of these worldwide design competitions where they said, okay, look, if we shoot at this project like with a shotgun, one of the bullets is, or one of the pellets or whatever is going to hit the target, hopefully. So they opened up the design competition to 15 designers pretty much around the world, and just shot at it and hoped one would be the one. And so the span, again, that bandwidth of designs that we presented, those 15 cars were in clay and scale, 1-to-1 scale, pretty much covered the whole gamut of what a Mini potentially could look like for the 21st century. And everybody used different approaches, different philosophies for what that Mini could look like, but we all were obligated to keep the same length in our designs, 3.6 meters, because the reason for that, it was bigger, obviously, than the original, but we needed to achieve a 5-star crash rating in the US. The US was going to be a huge opportunity if the Mini was successful, and it was successful in the US. That meant it could survive pretty well. So we had to get a really, really good safety factor achieved with the design, and that required that size of car. A lot of people ask, why did you make the Mini bigger than the original? We had to. That was the only way to get that 5-star crash rating. So so what I did, basically, the design I proposed was, I would say, a logical approach, because I didn't try to revolutionize the Mini itself in terms of making it look futuristic or even retro, because at the end of the day, it was called the retro car, but I prefer to call it more nostalgic in a sense. But all I did was basically, because the Mini hadn't changed at all in design over 40 years, I just designed, in the first week, I did a sketch for the potentially the 1969 Mini. Then the second week I did a 79 evolution of that. Then I did in the third week an 89 evolution. And then the last week of that month, I did a 99. So basically I built in a genetic, DNA timeline. And that's why I recalled the old one. You could almost see it as being the great grandfather. You saw the resemblance of a lot of the features, yet it was modernized. And that's why I always resisted that term retro. It didn't go back, it actually went forward. And so people did the 14, the board, which was 7 guys from BMW and 7 guys from the Rover Group. That was came to sort of a unanimous 14-0 decision, which was pretty as good as it gets also. And they said, yeah, that's it. So we went straight to production, but that meant me going to England for the next 5 years to develop it from the clay stage to production. And,
amazing.
Amazing.
In fact, launched at the Paris Auto Show in 2000 and led to really the award-winning rebirth of the brand, a whole new generation of Mini models.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of years later, the Mini Cooper was the first European car to win the North American Car of the Year.